through through being able to reduce that urge to rescue. And they're there being able to reduce that self-management, that that we're not just commiserating with them, we're taking it a step further. We're going to acknowledge that emotion, that lets them know, if you see it, you're feeling it a little too. And it also, with our reflections, we're able to show them, you sound frustrated. That gives you that point that you understand what they feel, and being able to be there with them. And here's a slide that really illustrates empathy is I feel your pain. That's really about the client. That's client centric. And that sympathy piece. I'm sorry that you're in pain. That's really about you. That's a feeling that you're having. And we really want to stay with that client centered piece. And empathy, traditionally it's just defined as that feeling that you understand and share another person's experience and emotions. The ability to share someone else's feelings, the ability, you know, to be in that moment with them. They may be relating something to you, and you may not be able to, you weren't there when it actually happened, but you'll be able to share someone's feelings in that moment. And sometimes the difficulty when we talk about empathy in healthcare, and coaching even, is it can distract from the focus of the client's agenda, and it can shift the focus to our own experience, feelings of perspectives and opinions. And a lot of times when people get emotional, you know, our brain takes that shortcut. As someone's relaying that they lost their mother, maybe our brain takes a shortcut to what we were feeling when our own mother passed, and different things like that. And it's a challenge really to self-manage that piece and be able to be there with that client. And when we do shift those perspectives, our opinions, and relate it to some of our own experiences, one of the things that can really happen is it transitions from empathy, into sympathy, what we're feeling. Oh, I'm sorry you had to go through that because it was so rough when I went through it, kind of thing. And that sadness and disappointment are really big pitfalls that we can fall into. And I'm gonna real quick try and be technically smart and share a video. And I can see Haley, Shade, and Nicole. So if you can't hear it, let me know.
We can't hear it.
You may have to reshare
Can't
your
hear it?
screen.
Well, what you have to do is all you have to do is go up or maybe it's at the bottom for your screen, but you got to find the toolbar and then go all the way over to the very edge where the three dots are. Or maybe it says other, and then all the way down it says share screen, probably about halfway down. Or not share sound, sorry, not screen.
No, I clicked share sound when I shared it the first time.
Oh,
I'll try it again.
Very different than sympathy.
there it is.
Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, you climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no. You want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with "at least." Yeah. And we do it all the time, because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now. I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
Any comments on that video?
Was that Brene Brown's voice?
That was Renee Brown's voice. Yeah. Pretty cool, isn't she? That was a judgment, but yeah, I think she's cool. And the big thing, empathy in our clients. And, we're practicing those skills. We're trying on those qualities. We have that, and those qualities and those skills that we practice really go a long ways towards setting up a coach to display that empathy when we're with the clients. We don't direct their clients. We're non-prescriptive. Therefore, we're able to partner with and get beside our clients. And that really helps with that empathy. And the other cool thing is we're listening to understand them. We don't have to try and fix. And it's liberating. It can be liberating for a coach. You're able to be there because you don't have to analyze it and try and figure out what does this person need to do to get out of this funk, or what does this person need to do to feel better. You're able to empathize with them and be there. And just by that presence and being able to empathize and somebody truly feeling heard and validated and getting that empathetic approach, they get better. It's kind of cool the way it works. They start to feel better. So got some scenarios coming up. Can I get a volunteer to read that? Betty.
I'll be Betty.
All right, Betty. You go ahead and just read that, what's in quotation marks.
I'm having such a difficult time with my manager. I think I'm going to get fired from my job. And then how will I afford to eat all of the healthy foods we've been discussing?
Oh, you poor thing. It's just terrible the way your manager treats you. You should win a prize just for putting up with him. With that. Yeah. Was that empathetic?
No.
No. Did you feel validated at all, or
Nope.
anything, Betty?
No
No.
warm and fuzzies.
No warm and fuzzies going on there. That's because I pity you.
Mm-hmm.
That's just And just so you know, my wife gets that all the time, that, oh, you poor thing, it's terrible the way your husband treats. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Do I got a new Betty?
Yeah.
Shade, you just read the quotation marks.
Okay. I am having such a difficult time with my manager. I think I'm going to get fired from my job. And then how will I afford to eat all of the healthy foods we've been discussing?
Well, I completely understand. I remember when I worked for someone just like about 10 years ago, it was just so frustrating to not be understood. I remember it just like it was yesterday, but I got through it, and so can you. All right, Betty, how you feeling after that?
Well, not so good. Maybe you're just feeling sorry for me. That's all.
Yeah, yeah, that's I'm trying to relate to you by feeling sorry for you and relating some of my own experiences. And sometimes you'll get clients, did he even hear me? Why is he talking about himself? Thought this was supposed to be about me. Let's move on. Do I got a Wendy? Well, nobody wants to be Wendy? We can call her Betty still if you want.
I'll do it.
All right, Margaret.
Yeah. I'm having such a difficult time with my manager. I think I'm going to get fired from my job. And then how will I afford to eat all the healthy foods we've been discussing?
That sounds like a difficult time. And I hear how worried you are, and well, also really wanting to keep your positive momentum going. Yeah. Now, what was the big difference between that response and the previous two responses?
You
Think
seem like you're really,
affirmation.
Go ahead, Margaret.
I was gonna say, you seem like you were really listening and could understand the situation or could relate.
Yeah. I just made an observation of, what I was observing in the moment. It sounds difficult. And I made that emotional reflection in there. I hear how worried you are. And then I also kept that positive momentum, Well, you're also really wanting to keep your positive momentum going forward, keeping that change thought going on, even while they're in that situation. That was fun. In empathy, it seeks solely to understand and value another person's experience with respect and compassion. It's really the intention of it is really just to get with where another person is coming from, nothing else. And that comes straight out of your Jordan and Jordan textbook. And when the client realizes that his or her feelings and needs matter, when it matters, and that he or she is being heard, they're taken seriously by a provider, a coach, it opens up unlimited possibilities for them. And it takes work on the coach's part to really nurture and maintain this intention. And it's really, empathy really helps us go a long ways towards that, shifting it from what's the matter to you with you to what matters to you. I just want to give you guys a heads up. I'm going to hit a slide and we got another scenario. If my buttons work. And scenario one, I'm going to be Tim. Do I got a provider? I'll be Tim. Nobody wants to be the provider.
As I can.
All right, Nicole. And we got to go through both of them. So I'm so angry. My boss told me that I have to work a 10-hour shift this week, which means that I can't do my evening walk. And there is no way that I'll be able to eat healthy.
Well, surely there is a way that you can stick to your goals. Don't give up now. You've worked so hard and had such success. You can't have the all or nothing attitude. What about walking in the morning instead?
Okay. Now just remember that one. And here we go, Nicole. I'm going to have you do provider again. I'm so angry. My boss told me that I have to work a 10-hour shift this week, which means I can't do my evening walk and there's no way I'll be able to eat healthy.
You are angry and disappointed because you've been so proud of yourself for being consistent with your exercise and eating plans. You're frustrated because you are having a difficult time thinking of strategies, maintaining this when your schedule changes. What else are you feeling?
Yeah. So which one of those was more empathetic? Scenario 1 or scenario 2? I'll go back to 1. And 2. Which one do you consider more empathetic? Shade says 2. Nicole's nodding. Yeah. When you look at 2, they're acknowledging or affirming the emotions that was felt. You're frustrated, difficult time strategies, and maintaining that schedule. And then also that deeper dive. What else are you feeling? Where in scenario 1, we're full of judgments. Well, surely there's a way you can do it. You can stick to your goals, and then we're full of prodding. Don't give up now. And again, some of that stuff that's coming from a little more judgier place. You worked so hard and had such success. And then definitely straight up, you telling somebody what they can and can't do. You can't have an all or nothing attitude. And then again, that leading, that offering that alternative where validating emotions and exploring the feelings and allowing the client to process and move forward. And then, we're going to talk about compassion. And that's a motivation to help, comfort, and alleviate suffering for another. When you look at this slide, you got that engagement scale. Pity, it acknowledges somebody's suffering. Then sympathy, that I care about your suffering, but sympathy is still really about me. It's a feeling that I have. And empathy, I'm there with you. I want to feel, I feel your suffering. I understand. And then that compassion, I want to relieve your suffering, be able to move forward when we talk about compassion. And again, and I don't think you'll read it in a book, but I just view sympathy as being about me, the way I feel. Empathy is about the client or understanding the client, and compassion makes it about both of you. And there's 3 components of compassion, and when we talk about compassion, before we can really start practicing it towards someone else, we have to have some self-compassion. And that's self-compassion towards our own negative emotions, which can lead us just to be softer and kinder, and this helps us. It improves our brain's ability to learn and change. And, the big part of, really being able to have compassion is those 3 components. That mindfulness, and, mindfulness defined as just being able to be in the moment and bring our focus back to that moment. And that sense of common humanity, we're all in this together, you know, and just, you know, kindness, you know, treat others as you'd like to be treated, kindness towards self, kindness towards others, all help us come up with compassion. And love yourself, you know, self-kindness, it requires that we understand that our experience, that human experience, is going to include suffering, heartache, embarrassment, disappointment, failure. But when we practice self-kindness amidst life, you know, we choose to be gentler and forgiving rather than angry and self-critical. The kindness may need to be accompanied by a willingness to be vulnerable, you know, to be truly seen within imperfections. And here we go, Renee Brown. She says that shame is bred by harsh, self-critical judgments. And it's often kept hidden in secret to hide our own vulnerabilities. But really, if we have good relationships founded on trust and authenticity, you know, it can help our client to be more willing to experience and share vulnerability, you know, followed by self-kindness. Because oftentimes, you know, when that vulnerability, you know, we got to be able to practice that self-kindness afterwards. And this slide just says everything. You know, if your compassion doesn't include yourself, it is incomplete. And, you know, what I say to that, you know, is you often find yourselves doing this when you're in your practices and a mentor asks you what you did well, you're real quick to be able to figure out, you know, I did this wrong, I did this wrong. Well, what'd you do well? You know, that self-compassion piece, being able to recognize in ourselves things that went well can really allow us to move forward and learn and grow from the things that maybe we need to enhance. Self-determination. It's vital for that empowerment. And, you know, compassion, the benefits are just numerous, especially when you relate to the client's need for self-determination. You got experiencing a connectedness with others, acknowledging that there's an interconnectedness with all of humankind. You know, we're all on this earth together. And it supports one's own most basic need for relatedness. And when our feelings, you know, when they're driven by love rather than you know, feelings of confidence, sense of security are more likely to take hold. That racing thoughts, that frenzy, you know, that gets tamed, leading to calmer heart and mind, because heart and mind are connected. And when a client's calm, they're better able to make intentional, informed choices with emotional intelligence, you know, and it supports their autonomy and it empowers them to really reflect on what's really important to them, their values, their needs, their motivations, and make better behavioral choices. Empathy versus sympathy, empathy, and then that compassion piece, you know, foundational qualities. And before I turn it over to Charles in charge, does anybody have any questions?
How do you navigate if somebody has shared something very heavy and it emotionally affects you, like invoking maybe tears or something, not making it about yourself, where it kind of borders that like now you're feeling the feeling but it's also kind of empathy at the same time.
It is. And you know, you can acknowledge it. And I've said, I got a little choked up there. You know, being authentic, being real, you know, and if you need a moment as that coach, you know, you're real and you're honest. That landed with me a certain way. I'm just gonna, can I just get a moment? There's other ways to do it. You know, you can, if you're versed in some different breathing and mindfulness techniques, you know, just and holding that space, and you know, that's truly you're getting to the point where now we got compassion there. You're really feeling what they're feeling, and then at the same time, you're gonna, you know, be able to reflect that emotion back to them, affirm them, and validate the client. And you are kind of reflecting with some nonverbals. And that's something as you grow as a coach too, you learn to self-manage a little better, and things that hit you at one point don't hit you quite as much in the feels, if that makes sense. Mm. Got anything to add, Charlie?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Is you just have to be authentic in it, right? Not taking away from the client, but yeah, saying something along the lines of, "Man, I got really choked up there for a minute." You know how, you know, and then putting it back on the client somehow, right? Of, you know, how does this land with, or where are we at right now? Where are you at right now?
And the clear thing about that is you're oftentimes those things that cause us to do that is maybe we had a similar experience and there's that little shortcut in our brain. Like I use mother passing, or maybe they're sharing something like that. You remember your own and it was traumatic for you. Is don't go down that rabbit hole where you start self-disclosing. Oh, that just hit me because, you know, I recently lost my mother. That kind of thing is what you don't want to do. Authentic, real, acknowledge the emotion and bring it back to the client.
It's challenging, right? That's the hard part about us, is we're also human. So we have those experiences, and I think that's important for us to acknowledge and be a part of as well, right? Is we are human, and those moments will happen and they're going to arise. And we're going to sit there and probably cry with a client. We're probably going to sit there and, you know, laugh hysterically until we cry, you know, other types of emotion too, right? So I think being authentic, being genuine, and that's what makes also rapid rapport and coach rapport, you know, rich with your clients too, is whenever you have those moments. Just don't go down the rabbit hole that your brain is probably telling you that you want to go down. Like that time whenever I lost my mother, I felt, right, and then it changes the conversation.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
Absolutely.
two-way conversation, doesn't it? Then you're having a conversation with the client and not coaching them at that point.
All right. Just remember empathy, and that's compassion for self and compassion for others. That allows you to partner with people.
That allows you to partner with people. Oh, right. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. Everybody can see it? Good. So what we're going to talk about right now is when and how to refer. We're going to talk a little bit about that now. And we're going to jump into talking a little bit about the next steps for your all's coaching experience. And then we're going to break out and do stage 4. So that's kind of the path that we're about to go down. So answer any questions, discuss things however you want. You know, it'll be better with more conversation as far as this section goes. So when and how to refer is very complicated for coaches, right? Because we have to refer because we are not the subject matter experts. So we have to constantly be thinking about building our referral network. So it's not necessarily where we're getting referrals from. That's a different thing. That's marketing, right? That's on the business side. But the moment that you're sitting there, hold on, sorry. But the moment that you're sitting there and you know that you're about to have to refer this client somewhere, already too late, right? You should already have referrals. You should already have an idea of what it's going to take to get referred, how long those referrals take, and those types of things. So think about that. And it also helps to start narrowing down once Nicole, if you're working with women with postpartum depression, right? So you would probably want to have mental health therapist on standby, maybe not on standby, but maybe, that if you have to refer them out and you start to notice that coaching is starting to enhance or exacerbate their depression symptoms or something along those lines, you have to have a referral network. Or if they become suicidal, you have to have that, right? Or working with executives or college kids, we have to be prepared for some of those worst case scenarios, because the moment that we're sitting in front of a client and they say that they want to harm themselves and we don't have a plan, we're in a world of hurt, right? In that. So thinking about how to refer, or how to prepare to refer, I think this kind of starts to get self-explanatory. I would highly recommend having a spreadsheet that you keep and start keeping now with different referral sources that you could potentially have. Another thing about coaching is different than practicing traditional medicine. Coaching, you can work across borders, right? And you can take clients from California to New York to Hawaii to, you can even do it international, right? So this is not, so you have to really think about what resources could you reasonably have at your fingertips for different types of challenging situations. Or even if you're working with business executives or healthcare executives, and then they begin to feel suicidal, or they just got a recent diagnosis of diabetes, right? It could be a whole slew of different things, and we got to start preparing our repertoire, our bench to be able to help that. If you work in an agency, just be clear of that supervisory chain and how to make those referrals, because sometimes, there's a lot of red tape that you got to jump through. And be familiar with referral sources. Do not refer somebody if you do not know that person. Well, actually, let me take that back. Refer them with the caveat that I do not know who I'm referring you to, right? Like if you need to refer them, especially like a mental health clinician or something like that, get to know the people, right? Know their websites. If you're going to refer people multiple times, I would even say, create relationships with them, go to where they are, things like that. Recognize that not all client issues are appropriate for coaching. Now, this used to read, recognize that not all clients are appropriate for coaching. And I strongly believe that everybody is in a place in their life to where they could be ready to coach, right? Because anybody can work on mission. Anybody can work on a long-term behavioral goal. They can work on action steps, even if they're homeless, they're depressed. But it's really, can they show up to the appointments and be a participant in acting in those areas? If they're so depressed that they can't even have conversations and those types of things, then it needs to be a referral to mental health. If it's an executive and, they're having all kinds of anxiety issues that's impacting their life, showing up to work, that's a time to refer them to a mental health clinician or something along those lines. And then become familiar with behaviors and signs that might suggest additional resources are needed. And what I mean by this is almost what I was alluding to before, right? Is if you're working with healthcare executives, what are some of the areas and behaviors that they exhibit, right? Postpartum depression, the same concept. The working with college kids, working with foster parents, like know their stuck points and the behaviors that they exhibit, right? And those types of signs, like with college kids, knowing the signs of binge drinking, but also having a plan for if somebody comes in with sexual assault, right? Because that's another big thing with college age kids. So having those types of thoughts and processes within your coaching repertoire. And we'll talk more about this, especially with coaching paperwork and things like that, of trying to keep track of all those types of things as well. So when to refer. These are just some guidelines. This is not anything robust. I think really using sometimes your intuition, which I think we talk a little bit about, but sometimes clients just aren't a good match for you, and that is okay. It is your duty to refer those people out, right? Like if you do get some of that transference that Todd was talking about of, hey, like every time I come and I'm talking with Haley, it just triggers me every single time that I think about my mom who passed away or whatever that was, and it's just beating me up. You need to refer that person on because you're not going to effectively be able to be a coach. So kind of keep that in mind as well. I know I already talked a little bit about if a client expresses intent and thoughts of doing harm to themselves. This is only active, right? So if somebody is actively wanting to harm themselves, is different if they're having thoughts of harming themselves. But you still need a plan for both, right? Have 988 numbers available, have those types of things because, those types of things happen from, all people experience these issues. So clients showing signs of depression. Now, again, are you going to have our clients that are going to be depressed? Yes, right. That doesn't make them not eligible for coaching, but if they're showing signs, they don't have a mental health clinician, they don't have, things going on for them, then maybe you could use provide illicit, and then, provide some type of mental health clinician to them. Or maybe just setting goals and a long-term behavioral goal and action steps helps their depression, right? So it's also the level of depression that you also got to think about and use some of that intuition. I will say in general, if it is impacting their day-to-day life, they're having effects on their work, they're having effects on home, kids, whatever it is, family, then yes, right? That's a time for referral. Same thing with high anxiety. I would imagine everybody in this class has high anxiety. Does it make you not eligible for coaching? Probably not, right? So keep that in mind. But if it's impacting their life, clients unable to make progress. I will say that this is probably a relationship issue if they're not able to make progress or you're not really coaching the client and meeting them where they're at. I would almost say a lot of times whenever clients aren't making the progress, we're not using the motivational interviewing skills and identifying the stages of change of where they're at and using those types of skills to progress them forward before we say that they're not meeting their desired goals. Seem to have conflicts and values. I think that kind of goes back to what we were talking about. If you're really, if you're coaching also other people that trigger you in a way that is a value conflict for you, you most certainly need to refer those people out because you're also not going to be able to show up with them. And trust your intuition. So how to refer, this is something that you can definitely have in some of your coaching paperwork of how to refer. The referral process is something that you'll probably have to work on ongoing, but I would have a referral process because another thing that you never want to do is refer somebody out to something and then not follow up on that referral process. So you should have a full-on process from beginning of end to a referral. Discuss with the client first before making the referral. Use provide illicit to help provide that information to them, brainstorming, and you use those coaching skills, just don't hand out information. And then offer to continue to provide coaching if that is desired by the client. So if they're in mental health counseling, that doesn't mean that you should not be a part of that person's team, right? If you're a coach, really what you should do is then start partnering with the mental health clinician or whoever it is and really start to be a multidisciplinary team. That's another part of that referral process is you just shouldn't refer somebody out and then that's it. And then hopefully they got there. You should follow up with the referral, make sure that you know what they're doing, and then also have communication to make sure that your goals, everything's aligned basically. So any questions on when and how to refer, or comments, concerns? Pretty straightforward. Yeah, go ahead, Sade.
I'm thinking if you do a referral and then you realize that you made a mistake, how do you address that? Maybe you think you acted too soon and then you want to make an amend. How do you address,
Yeah, that's, That's a good question. I will say though, the good thing that would be in your toolkit is ultimately you don't make a referral without the client's permission, right? So if you're eliciting, let's say it's a mental health clinician, you know, you use that elicit, what do you know about being referred out to a mental health clinician from here? And then whenever they say, you know, oh, I know that it's backed up and it might take me 3 months to get in and blah, blah, blah. And then you say, well, I know a clinician, or, you know, I know a little bit about getting into that and I have a referral process. Would you like to know about it? And if they say yes, then you say, okay, well, I have a clinician on standby who takes my referrals and I can get you seen within a week. Is that something you'd be interested in? I don't think it's a bad thing to refer somebody to something like that on ahead of time. I'm trying to think of an example to where you might refer somebody, maybe the example would be more that you referred somebody to a mental health clinician and then you found out that they're not a good clinician, right? You got feedback from another client that, this person was picking their nose and, completely not paying attention to them the entire time, whatever it was, showing up late, the whole 9 yards. And finally you get this report, then I would just have a genuine moment in your next session or give them a call, whatever your kind of plan is, and go back to that authentic piece, right? To say, hey, what happened was this person was a person that I referred people to. It seemed good. And then now things have kind of changed. And I apologize for that. However, if you would like more information on another referral process, I do have things like that or something along those lines. But I would definitely have that authentic moment to say, hey, like something happened, whatever happened, happened. And I'm so sorry. Here we are in this place. How would you like to proceed forward? And put it kind of back in their shoulders to kind of go from there. Did that answer your question? Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. So next steps in your coaching journey, right? So what's going to happen next? So today, like I said, y'all are going to do another breakout, but this will be the last session. I mean, you'll do breakouts before, but this will be the last session that you're doing coaching like this in your sessions. So what's going to happen from here is we are going to assign you all teams. And in those teams, you two are going to start, really it's going to be dyads. There's going to be one group of 3 right now. You two are going to be assigned each other, and then you all are going to set up a meeting cadence over the next 8 weeks or 9 weeks until the end of class. And y'all are going to coach each other one time per week for the next 9 weeks. And on top of that, you'll record your sessions however you can do that. If y'all have issues getting the sessions recorded, reach out to myself or Haley and we'll figure that out. But ultimately record it over Zoom, record it over Teams, record it over, Google Meets, whatever you can record it over, however you all want to meet. Record your sessions and then you'll submit those to us. We are going to assign you all a mentor that you all will have that entire time that you'll meet with on a consistent basis. We hadn't really developed that cadence yet, whether it's going to be every other week to where they can review 2 videos and you'll kind of get together and go over it. We're going to meet tomorrow and assign the mentors and develop that process out just a little bit further. But ultimately, the goal is you're going to have a consistent mentor and be able to develop over the next 8 weeks your coaching skills with that mentor. So that is the goal. If you are not receiving that, and it's myself, let Haley know. If it's Haley, let me know. But don't be bashful because this is your coaching experience. These mentors are going to help move you towards proficiency. If they are not moving you towards proficiency, we need to know that. And we, kind of goes back to that whole relationship thing. If it's not a good relationship, it's not a good relationship. But I will say, just because a mentor tells you that you need to do something different doesn't make it a bad relationship. Okay. So keep that in mind. Sometimes there might be some feedback you don't agree with. That's different, right? Feedback that you don't agree with and being a bad mentor are 2 different things. And I say that only because, hopefully this can really be a relationship that can happen. And then the idea is that everyone's going to get paired up. Let us know if there's a conflict, you don't like the other person, the mentor, like genuine conflicts, and we'll work around that. We want to create a safe space. So that is number one priority, is we want that safe space. So if there is a conflict, please let us know. Oh, something just happened here. You will meet weekly and coach one another, right? So we're going to do exactly what we just did over the past first 3 weeks. Whenever you meet with your partner, you're going to meet, go over mission, aspiration, and purpose. You're going to do your next session, so on and so forth, 20-minute sessions, and you're going to record those. Record your session and submit them to Haley and myself via email. You know, how, if you can't do it by email because the files are too large, you know, just reach out to us. We'll figure that part out. A mentor will meet with you to discuss your coaching. So really there's 2 meetings that you're going to have to set up. The coaches will reach out to you all, or the mentors will reach out to you all tomorrow. So that's not one that you all have to worry about. Or I won't say tomorrow. It could be by sometime next week. But they'll reach out to you and get your mentoring set up. You will need to reach out to your partner, and you two will then need to get that set up. And then you'll set those weekly cadences up around your schedules. Again, it's only 20 minutes, so really about 40 minutes each, or not 40 minutes each, 40 minutes total for the entire piece. You record it and then just submit it. Let's see. And then at the end, you and your mentor will meet to review your evaluation. So you and your mentor will, you know, track your progress over time. So this will be an evaluated process throughout that. And at the end of this, hopefully, you know, we'll all be great coaches, right? That's the goal. So before I open it up for questions of that, right, just remember, as you're doing this and you're focused on your health coaching, use all the feedback that you've gotten now. If you have questions about your feedback, meet with your mentors, you know, talk to people, but ultimately going into this, remember these characteristics of a coach, right? Maintain those qualities throughout, because you're being evaluated on it, right? These are the things that we're looking for whenever we are doing mentorship. Coaching skills, coaching strategies, right? Facilitating that vision, exploring values. Are you doing those strategies? You know, these are going to be the things that we're going to be looking for, right? So remember that as you're doing these individual sessions. And I'll also say you're getting ready to be coached through and through for 8 weeks to 9 weeks, right? Roughly, whenever we get this set up. There might be a week that you miss. Pick goals that you all want to accomplish, right? Because now you're going to be able to accomplish this and grow your coaching skills at the same time. So if you do have those personal goals, I know y'all been working on probably little things here and there over the past 4 weeks, but you know, now you'll really be able to think about what you can accomplish in, you know, 8 weeks or 9 weeks. So think about that, and something that you would want to share with your partner. And then remember, you're going back through this entire coaching process. So you're starting at the beginning and going all the way through. And then, you know, today we're going to be doing stage 4. So you'll have an idea of that ongoing session, because from here on out, remember, whenever you're coaching, I'll say this again a little bit later, you're driving them towards that long-term behavioral goal. And every week it's almost like your action steps are changing. Sometimes that long-term behavioral goal will change, but it should be rare that long-term behavioral goal change. And so you should really be adjusting those action steps that drive you towards that long-term behavioral goal. So the long-term behavioral goal stays, and then every single week you're adjusting. All right. So right now, these are the groups. And then let's see. So Brian, Jennifer, Casey, Sade, Carrie, and Nicole. Donna dropped out, and that was going to be Margaret's partner. So now I think we're going to put Carrie, Nicole, and Margaret together. Can't click on the slide. So now, before we move on to stage 3, because this is a different process than the next process we're getting ready to start. So any questions as far as after tonight, these are kind of your groups: Carrie, Nicole, Margaret. So Margaret's the only name not on here. Casey, Sade are partners. I know Casey's not here, Sade, so I'll send an email kind of introducing y'all to in this whole process. Brian and Jennifer. Brian's not on either. He was, wasn't he? And now I don't see him. But I'll do the same thing for for that and get y'all two hooked up.
Will
Any-
you send us each other's contact info too, so we can hook up?
Yep, we most certainly can. Or you all can or message each other right now and exchange information too. Or actually, you know what? I take all that back. What I'm going to do is break. Nope, we don't have enough people to do that. Never mind. I was going to break everybody out to go ahead and exchange information. So I'll go ahead and do the emails then and do it that way. Okay. Yep. Since everybody's not here, that'll just be the easiest. So I'll do the emails. So expect an email from me tomorrow introducing you all to that, and then expect a mentor to be reaching out to you within the next few days. Okay. Any other questions about this whole process? Any concerns? Please, any concerns whatsoever, let us know. Because our goal, again, for this process is to move you all towards proficiency. So having a good mentor, having a good client, having good partners, all that stuff applies. So Carrie, Nicole, and Margaret, we can kind of talk about how to set y'all's sessions up a little bit differently if y'all want at some point, and then we'll go from there. All right. No concerns, no questions. I'm sure there'll be about 1 million questions once we get started, but no concerns there. Please send us your questions and we'll try to answer them the best we can. And then we'll go from there. All right. If no questions, then I will keep moving forward. So now we're going to move into stage 4. So again, stage 4, we're assessing and reassessing. Ultimately, the client now, well, let me move forward. The client now has their vision, right? They have their map, they have everything written out. You've now focused on their area of focus, right? You've identified that, so you know what area they want to work in. You also now have a plan for action, right? Last session that you just met with them, you created that long-term behavioral goal that is aligned to your mission, aspiration, and purpose, right? You have created that action step. So now they have actually left a session and done something, right? So now they're going to be coming back to you, hopefully having taken some type of action, even if it was no action, towards that action step that you all helped facilitate last time. So now whenever they show up, they've already got all that stuff done, and now it's time to take further action, reassess the plan, learn from the lessons learned, and assess where you're going next, right? So the next time you should set up another smart action step that then leads them closer to that goal. So here we go, right? How did it go, right? That's the first question you can ask them right out of the gate, right? How did it go? Have the client self-assess. And if they say, I think it went completely terrible, right? Took fully action, partial took action, or no action. It could be any one of those. Sorry, that went a little bit fast, didn't it? Could be any one of those, but we have to be able to look at it. If they took no action, we still have to find the strengths within that, right? Those are the things that we're looking for as coaches, that even if they took no action, we still have to figure that out in the words that they're reflecting to us. Partial action, the same thing. If they did a little bit, it's like, the good reflection typically is always, you took action, right? You did something, right? Just being able to say that is great as well. So lessons learned, when you think about your last action step, what went well, right? What did not go according to plan, and what did you learn, right? Most important, right? What did you learn? Because that's also a growth mindset type of question, right? Is what did you learn out of that process? Coach listens for, right? Any success that we can absolutely find. You tried it. If they didn't even take any action, you thought about it, right? We created an action step about it a week ago. It's a thought, right? It's a process for you, right? Try to think about that. Of course, we want to see, and we need to be listening for breakthroughs, any challenges or surprises that happen to them that they didn't expect. And then apply strengths, right? Are any strengths that they applied to that process that is a strength that they've already talked about. New skills acquired, recurring themes, and competing values. And then now this is one area. So where would you like to go from here? Again, we are coaches and we don't let them just throw anything at the wall and see what sticks, right? They've already created that long-term behavioral goal. So now we need to really start to pull in and start focusing on, they already tried to accomplish one action step. What is the next action step that they need to accomplish before leaving this or whenever they leave this session? And if they do need to reassess, there is occasions where we would change that long-term behavioral goal, and ultimately you would just revert back to stage 3 and create that long-term behavioral goal based on what area of focus they want to. Examples of people who need to change their long-term behavioral goal is not because they're ambiguous about it, right? If they're having ambiguity about their goal, that doesn't necessarily equate to you needing to change that long-term behavioral goal, because that's the reason why they probably hadn't accomplished the goal net to date, right? Is because they're ambiguous. They're not committed to change. They got to be held to the fire a little bit. So, whenever you are having them reassess that and they're like, I want to change my long-term behavioral goal, there is some challenging things that you could do to say, wait a minute, on one hand, you want to change your goal, but you also talked about these types of things, right? And really try to challenge that before letting them change that long-term behavioral goal. I think that is what we have to do. We're coaches. Focus. If it's the same area, you don't have to change it, right? You just keep going. Keep doing the thing. Reassess the map, make sure everything's still aligned, mission, aspiration, and purpose, values. And again, we're using all those coaching skills that we talked about earlier, right? We want to listen to those, or we want to have all of those great qualities and coaching skills. And that's why that one paper is so important to kind of have with us that shows all of it. If a different focus area, go through those processes and those steps that we know. What does this area mean to you? What is important to you about this area? And then connect it to their mission, aspiration, and purpose. Action, right? So again, in the big picture, you should already have a smart, well-defined long-term behavioral goal. So really what we're now doing is taking action towards that long-term behavioral goal. If you have to change it, again, you go back to stage 3 and you do all those things that we did last week. If not, then you reassess and you use SMART to add to those action steps. And then that way they know exactly what they're doing when they leave here. And then of course, closing in your own words, what is your next steps? So let me open it up to you all for questions. Any questions about this process? No questions at all? Okay. Well, I feel like y'all got this. Can y'all see the PDF stages? Okay. So again, we give you the script to be able to kind of go down through this. Whenever we kind of get to this point, where would you like to go from here? This is in relation to their long-term behavioral goal, right? Unless they need to change that. And again, examples of needing to change that long-term behavioral goal, a financial situation happened, health concerns, things like that. Major things happen to where you might need to change that long-term behavioral goal. However, in general, they should keep that long-term behavioral goal and we should continue driving towards it. So again, follow the script, pretty easy. I say it's easy, not too easy, but you know what I mean. So any questions before we assign y'all out? So y'all feel really good. All right, well, what I'll do is I'll go ahead. So the groups tonight are going to be Jennifer and Margaret, and then Carrie, Nicole, and Sade. All right. Well, then I'm opening up the rooms. Y'all could take a 10-minute break if you want. Be back into the main room 10 minutes before the class ends. Same as usual. All right. How'd that
Brian
go?
looked scared there for a minute.
Huh?
Brian looked scared there for a
I think
minute.
it just caught
He's
him.
like,
Froze. Oh man. Well, I feel like that went pretty good. Todd did a great job. I feel
yeah,
like the when and how to refer went decent. Um,
I think it all went well.
yeah,
Smooth.
I mean that's how this
Yeah.
needs to be.
Yeah. You explained the breakouts well. I mean, for them to do their own thing. So I think they understood.
I hope so. Oh, I need to stop recording, don't I?